Okay, so we're picking up and I am jumping right in. So I'm going to give the summary of where we are. Okay, so what I've shared with you is that there was a tremendous amount of disruption that I experienced in my life. I went from, for the past 10 years, I had my aunt's death in 2016 and I inherited a bunch of her stuff. My workout fitness coaching space was filled with crap. Instead of being able to use it as a functional space, it became a storage locker. It took me a couple years to sell all of those items on Facebook Marketplace. Then I got engaged. I was very excited about getting married to my high school sweetheart. And we made all these plans and visions, and it was very exciting. It was very adventuresome, and I really thought that I had met my match. And there was a lot of joy initially in this time period, from 2008 until 2020, around there. And then, of course, as you know, the pandemic hit and my fiance relapsed. He was supposedly a recovering drug addict in recovery, but during COVID, he actually relapsed, and he was a very difficult person to contend with on so many levels. And during that time, my stuff was stolen. I was brutally beaten. I suffered great abuse. I was poisoned. My finances were stolen. My identity was stolen. And in the beginning, I made excuses for drug addiction. I made excuses for the fact that he was in and out of recovery. And as a believer in God, in Yeshua, in the Holy Spirit, I kept giving him multiple chances to repair. I was praying for him nonstop. I was believing that this period was going to pass and that he was going to get better, and he didn't. And so I lost a lot during that period, and eventually he died. So the next death that I experienced was my fiance's death in 2021. And in 2021, he left a huge mess behind, and I didn't know the extent of how things were until I uncovered it. Storage locker at a time, a box at a time, one digital record at a time. And it was a long process of discovering the truth of really who he was, how wicked he was, and the vile things that he had planned for me and my family during his drug addiction and during his narcissistic abuse. Prior to that, I did not know what narcissism was. I had no idea. I understood alcohol addiction with other family members that had alcohol addiction problems, but drug addiction, a whole other animal. Narcissistic abuse, wow, to the nth degree, just incredible abuse. So during that time, I then went through all of these 3 different storage lockers and moved all those storage locker items into my coaching room and started to begin the process of sorting all those things. During the process of sorting through all those things, I discovered proof and evidence about his betrayals to me and my family. I started to get a different understanding of unrequited love and narcissistic abuse. And I went through a lot of therapy and life coaching to manage and understand what had happened to me, to truly understand that level of abuse. So during that time, I was dealing with all this stuff, one box at a time. I was grieving. There were times I was overeating, more like a binge eat. And eventually I got to the point where I started to make progress, and I finally had removed all of the things that I didn't want to have anything to do with him or those memories. I finally got rid of those things, sold those things, gave them away, etc. So then what I had left was everything that was for my purpose, my business content, my exercise and fitness and wellness equipment, and my clothing, my furniture, etc. And then I got to 2024, and I was prepared to go away to college. I was my van was I'm sorry, I have to back up. My van had a flood in the winter of 23. I believe it was 23, yeah. And then in spring and summer of 24, I did the van renovation to remove all the mold and the problems, and then rebuild the van with a new layout for moving and living at school in Virginia. And right when I was getting ready to leave for school, putting the finishing touches on the tweaking of the van build, and I had already packed up all my belongings, ready to pack into my van, I came home to a flood in my apartment. The flood in my apartment ruined most of the stuff that I had on the floor that was packed and ready to go into my van. So I pretty much lost my best clothing, my best linens, my towels, my comforters, my sleeping bag gear, my furniture, anything 2 foot off the floor was ruined. And that meant that everything had to be removed from the apartment, and then the apartment had to be renovated, which took 5 months. So I changed my schedule. Instead of being in person in Virginia, I moved that schedule to be an online master's program. I lived in hotels during that time, going to school full time. Then I found out that my dad had cancer, and that my dad was going to have 3 to 6 months to live. I spent as much time as I could with my dad in the hospital. I honored my dad's request to go and get things from his home, which was a trailer home. When I went to this my dad's trailer home, it had flooded. So I attempted to rescue whatever of my dad's belongings that he asked me to rescue while he was in the hospital, going through his bout with cancer. And I sorted things. I was hauling things back to my apartment of what I could rescue and save. And then during this time of doing all this, my dad was getting worse. He was put into hospice, and I was the point person to deal with family and friends, meeting with them at the hospital, meeting with them in hospice, handling the different responsibilities, being the firstborn. And then my dad died. And as I continued to gather these things from my dad's trailer to put that into the piles and boxes of stuff that I, stacked up, the trailer was locked. Certain payments had not been made. Different decisions had been made according to what was originally agreed of what my dad had communicated to me. My brother handled things differently, and I did not have access to go into that trailer and to get the beloved pictures and other things that I had sorted. So I lost a tremendous amount of things that I had saved and rescued from the flood, that I was never able to get. I then had all of these piles of stuff for my dad's death in 2024. I was still in school full time. That semester for my master's ended in December of 24. for that semester. And at that point, I finally, after the semester was over, I was finally able to move back into this apartment. And I sat in this apartment, which was empty. And I had to start over. So you can imagine that's a tremendous amount of displacement. There were 4 floods in the process. The flood in my van, the flood in the apartment, my apartment, the flood in my dad's mobile home, a flood in the hotel. All of these things, being displaced, trying to deal with the grief of my dad's death, dealing with the physical stuff, living very minimalistically in hotels, being robbed and stolen from and vandalized at the hotels. My van was vandalized. My things were stolen out of my room. I was, taunted as, a guest in the hotel by different people. So the whole point is, I was so happy to be, quote, home in one place, to then create a space of rest. So after this period of, serious displacement, during menopause, the hot and cold flashes, the sleep deprivation, the grief, the overwhelmment from all the stuff, the high cortisol, the triggered emotional eating. If you can relate to any of this, you get that was a tremendous amount of stress. So now, after all that, we are now going to come to, that's the summary of where I've been. That's my past life. That is what has happened before. That is a summary of what I have survived, what I have gone through. And now we are going to begin what I'm doing to move forward. What is my vision? Okay, so my upper room that contains all of the various boxes, the goal for that room is to turn that back into my client area to serve for workshops, to have my life coaching sessions, to be able to create content up there, and then to have my active inventory of the things that I'm selling on Facebook Marketplace, and to archive my content in that room. That is my goal for that room. It's going to have my recording equipment. It's going to have, chairs for coaching sessions, and it's going to have all the content that I'm going to be bringing to you, which is going to be highlighting, how to declutter, how to do a van build, what's in the box, my Facebook Marketplace flips, my tax paper purging, and estate cleanouts, because that is a portion of my experience in the past 10 years of what I've gone through, and I'm just refining the process. I am going to be removing certain things in that room, primarily these heavy wardrobes, hiring a mover, getting certain clutter out, and putting the clutter that I am keeping, let me say that again, keeping the content that I'm keeping, that is going to be things that I am creating, things that I am selling that are going to produce income, and the rest of the stuff is going away to be sold and given to charity, etc. Now this room here, as you can see behind me, the cluttered white cabinet, again, when I'm sorting through things, sometimes I'm taking 15 minutes at a time, and I'm going to deal with this one shelf. I'm going to put all these books in this category on this one shelf, and I do it, and then I'm back to doing something else. So what you're seeing is a work in progress, and it takes time to, kind of snippet your time to do what you can do in certain amounts of time. So all of these shelves behind me are going to be styled and minimized because I've ordered new boxes and some of this stuff is coming out, etc. Okay, so I'm going to be decluttering this room so that I'm going to be recording my podcast on the sofa and at my desk, and the rest of the time this room is going to be my serenity, sanctuary, my calm place to just create ideas, to rest and relax, to watch a movie, etc. So now, when I get out those wardrobes, I am going to have a heavy load removed, because when you can't physically move things yourself and you're reliant on other people to do things for you, there is this time delay. There is this, well, I can't do it until here, and then that's delayed another couple weeks. Well, we could do it on this day, but not this day. And when I get those big heavy items out of here, I will be free to be flexible and movable and mobile again without those heavy pieces of furniture, to be able to utilize that room to the best of my advantage. So what I really want to highlight here, not only about myself, but what I am hoping to share with you as well, is that my goal is to end this archive area of just being a storage locker, like where I just store stuff and the stuff is not accessible and the stuff is not usable because there's so much stuff blocking all the pathways to get to the stuff. That era is over. What I'm moving into is this era of legacy, this area of content creation, of taking what I have and creating the things, my books, my courses, my content, my digital libraries. It's not that I really needed to clean that room, okay? It's that what I'm doing now is to extract the value of all of my life experiences from those lessons, from that content in those boxes, to then for that to become my content for my videos and my clients and my income generation, which is going to create an additional source of freedom and prosperity, abundance, etc. So there are going to be things that I'm going to be piling up and getting ready in one area that is going to be what I'm going to sell. Now, whether that stays in my space or moves into a storage locker, that is to be determined based on the amount of stuff that I sort and separate for this round, for this version. But what I'm letting go of is holding on to a museum, and I'm letting go of clutter that blocks my pathways. And what I'm moving into is I am building my coaching headquarters. So again, I'm using these words and ideas to help get you thinking about what room, what area in your home that you can declutter and reclaim and reorder and repurpose and rebuild. So I'm going to ask you some of these questions, and you tell me whether or not this has happened to you. Have you carried the weight of multiple major life events stacked on top of each other? Things like a flood, or in my case, 4 floods. Have you been displaced from your home? Have you lived in hotels or been evicted? Have you had renovation chaos? Have you lived through graduate school? Have you been doing caregiving for a loved one? Have you lost a loved one with death? Have you moved through the grief? Have you inherited things from your loved ones that you haven't dealt with that stuff? Are you trying to run a business amidst all this stuff? And are you trying to earn extra income while selling this stuff? All of those disorganized piles, the boxes and bins that are stacked up, the decisions that are indecisions or no decision or just pure like halted, stopped, not doing anything, you close the door, you don't want to look at that room. All of those things, or are you hiding them behind curtains? All of that pile up, all of that stuff is what I survived, okay? I'm not a failure, and neither are you. These cluttered rooms are evidence that I refuse to let the important things get lost. Now, that's what I've been committed to during my whole process. I have labeled those things in boxes that I wanted to save my father's writing, his legacy. I wanted to save my coaching materials, save my business content, save my educational materials, save my van life dream, save my memories and my keepsakes, save my life's work. And I ask you the question, what are you willing to save? What are you willing to dig through that you can save in a designated box, labeled appropriately, so that you have easy access to get to that box? Because during this whole process, as I've been moved around, shift around, I have put things that are important and sacred in boxes because I refused to let go of things that were important. I may have been delayed, but I have not let go of the things that are most important. I have protected my most important things despite getting hit from every direction with all of these life circumstances. Now, I get to choose. I get to make decisions about what's left. I get to make decisions about how am I going to live into this next season? How am I going to create and build my business into this next season? What the past was and what you see now is what I've already gone through. Now we're going to refine and tweak the process and create a level of minimalism in this whole context. I'm going to go over the logo that I have. It's the Valor logo, and I'm going to have that in a separate video that's going to point out. I'm going to talk about the logo, but I'm going to have the visual of the logo in a separate video. So this logo for my company, Valor, is highlighting one of the Hebrew letters of the alphabet. It's the letter 9, and it is about the power of choice. And how it is described is that it is a snake coming out of a basket, and it has the choice of, becoming what it's supposed to be and getting crowned as the crowned man, or to choose to be that snake coming out of the basket, which is living in sin, being wicked, being knocked down, being conquered all the time. Or are you going to choose to put your crown on and live the life of the crowned man, the man named Yeshua, the one who has conquered death and everything that death is associated with, who lives and reigns, if you want to become a sovereign person, ruling over your stuff. This is what this Valor logo is about. This is what this Valor logo is about. Reclaiming your crown, making decisions about this, confronting the snake head on and being like, devil, you do not have access to this part of my life anymore. Your time is evicted. You need to go. And this stuff that you've held me and trapped me in these, boxes of indecision, that time is over. Like, we are moving forward, and I am reclaiming my life, and I am reclaiming the stuff that I'm going to keep, and I'm getting rid of all the stuff that you've distracted me with and kept me bound in and contained by. And now it is a time of editing. It is a time of choosing, curating, selecting, and making decisions about the next phase of my life and what I want to bring into my life, what I want to keep, and what I want to push away and let go and say no to and give away or sell, or just be like, you're done, put in the trash, it's dump. I am sitting now in my studio with the current amount of clutter behind me, around me, that's going on. And this is to mark this moment. This is a snapshot of, this is where I am right now, of dealing with my past, and this is proof of me moving into my future. And as I move into my future, from this point on, I am moving into my private sanctuary, where I am going to create a place of rest, a place of renewal, and a place for creativity. Also a place to gather, because this space is also my living room for, creating a dinner party or having people come to sit and gather together. I am moving forward no matter what, and I encourage you to do the same. So now I want you to think about the times in your life where you have been just super overwhelmed. You have walked through outrageous storms, maybe like I have, 4 floods in 1 year. Maybe you've been working really hard to work on that degree. Maybe you've been, taking a course in the evenings that is going to level up your career and get you a promotion in your job. Maybe you are wanting to start a business, but you never seem to get around to it because all this stuff in your life is not set up to support you. It's set up to distract you and keep you stuck. Maybe you survived a flood. Maybe you survived a fire, or just displacement. Maybe you got evicted. Maybe you couldn't afford rent and you're living in a van or a bus or wherever in order to compensate for the struggles and the circumstances that have happened to you. Now, it's time to rebuild your home, whether it's big or small. We're going to rebuild. We're going to preserve the decades of content and intellectual property and anything that you can save from your past life of things that are still within your possession. And I'm going to help you to create your upper room, okay? So when I talk about my upper room, okay, that I showed you with all those boxes, that is going to be my new coaching headquarters location, okay? But right now, what it has been my storage locker, okay? And so I want to move out of the mindset that that's my storage locker of all my crap that's stuck in there, and I want to move into the season of I am creating my coaching headquarters where people come together to experience life coaching in-person sessions, where people come to gather together and learn and grow and support one another. This is a place where people come for private one-on-one sessions. This is the place where people come for Zoom sessions. This is the place where I create content that is put on my online platforms and my learning living library. This is me helping you to see how I'm creating my upper room, and for you to see how you can create your upper room. Your upper room is your place where your head is in a safe place where you can develop ideas, that you can create content, where you can preserve your wisdom, where you can create your coaching programs or whatever kind of programs you want to create, to build the projects that are going to create your unique legacy. Like these things that I'm creating are creating my life coaching legacy. The things that you're going to create are going to create your legacy. And the whole idea is that as I change myself and I'm changing other people's lives, this is the multiplication, is that more lives get changed, more lives get changed, more lives get changed, and more people get out of their graves of storage lockers and they move into their living a joyful, prosperous life that supports them. Now I want to ask you, have you ever caught yourself saying out loud, I have too much stuff. I have too many boxes and bins. I have so much to do. I don't have enough time to do it. I can't do this. There's no way to conquer all of this mountain. I've been there. I know exactly what you're going through. I've been through it in various stages and various points over this 10-year period. Instead, I want you to declare out loud with me, boldly, I am curating my legacy. Every box becomes a decision. every decision becomes clear space. Every clear space becomes clarity. Every space of clarity becomes momentum, and every space of momentum becomes opportunity, and every opportunity breeds and multiplies more opportunities, and every opportunity creates and generates income and prosperity and investments. And as I am doing this, as I have done this, as I'm continuing to do this, you can too. So today, right now, I want you to pick one room, maybe one wardrobe in that one room, maybe one box, or maybe one drawer, maybe one closet. I want you to pick one thing, and I want you to get a notebook, get a pen, and I want you to make a list of what do you see in that one room? What do you see in that one wardrobe? What do you see in that one box? What do you see in that one drawer? What do you see in that one closet? I want you to write a list of what is there. The first thing is what is. And then I want you to take out the things that you know that you don't want. You know that you don't want, okay? And I want you to take those items and put them on a pile on the floor. You know you don't want this stuff. Okay. And now I want you to make a pile of what you know you do want. You don't want, you do want. So now you're making a pile of what you want to keep. Okay. And in this pile of what you're going to keep, if it's in your closet, keep the things that you want to keep. Let them stay hanging in the closet. The things that you don't want, take them out, pile them on the floor. Okay. Now, after you've written down what is in that space, what you know that you don't want, you want to get rid of it. Okay. And you know that this other pile you want to keep. So take the things that you want to keep and put them back into the room, back into the wardrobe, back into the box, back into the drawer, back into the closet. Take the things you want to keep and keep them and put them back into that space. And take out the things that you don't want and put all those things on the floor. Okay? And as you put all those things on the floor that you don't want, okay, you are going to grab a bag, grab a box, grab a marker, grab some duct tape, a Sharpie marker, and you're going to put those things in the bag or the box that you don't want. So the things that you don't want, that you know you can give away, just put them in the bag. Put them in the bag and label it give. Okay? And now, the things that you want to keep, but maybe you want to sell. You don't want them, but you want to sell them. You're going to put them in the box. So this is the simplest system that you're going to have. The things that you're going to keep, you're going to leave them in the room, the wardrobe, the box, the drawer, the closet. Okay? The things that you don't want, you're going to sort them into two categories. If you want to give them away, you're going to put them in a bag and you're going to label the bag give. If you are going to sell the things, you're going to put them in a box and you're going to label the box what it is and that you're selling it. That is the simplest part of this system. And you are going to repeat this over and over in every room until you've dealt with everything in your house, in your life, in your van, in your closet that's out of whack. And you're going to have the things that you want to keep and the things that you want to give and the things that you want to sell. So it really comes down to three things: keep, give, sell. Now I want to tell you, on the things that you are going to give, if you can put them in that bag and immediately get them out of your space, I think that you're going to feel so much better by doing that, to physically get them out of your space. Because when they're still cluttering up your space, then it creates another delayed decision. I'm going to get around to that. And then that could be another couple weeks go by and that bag is still sitting there. You want to get it out. You want to give it and get it out. And if that means dropping off at a Goodwill, a Salvation Army, call for the Purple Heart pickup, call for the Salvation Army pickup, donate it to a women's shelter, donate it to your church, whatever, but get it out. Get the things that you know that you're going to give away for free. Get them out of your space. And then lastly, you have the boxes, and the boxes are the things and the items that you're going to sell. These things that you have stored up, maybe they're things that were given to you. Maybe they're things that you inherited over someone's death. Maybe they're things that you purchased but you never used, or they never quite fit properly, or whatever. The things that you have in these boxes, you are going to organize them, label them, and you need to find one space where you are going to store these things that you are going to sell. Now, many people like putting them in a storage locker and having all the things they're going to sell in a storage locker. If you have the extra money to spend on the storage locker, go for it. That's fine, but realize that you're going to have to plan your Facebook Marketplace pickups at the storage locker unit, and that means you driving there, and then when people don't show up, then you've already driven that extra distance to the storage locker. So think about these things. If there's a way that you can reclaim a different closet in your house or a portion of a room in your house, that you can stack all the things that you're selling in that one portion without going the route of a storage locker, I think in the long run, it's going to save you more money, and it's going to give you a little bit more peace of mind, because when someone comes to pick up the items, you're already at home. It does make it a little bit easier. And if you're going to go the route of selling things on Facebook Marketplace and just shipping them out, then no one's coming to your home. You're taking that item out of the box, you're putting it into a shipping package or box, and then you're shipping it out once somebody has placed the order. So either way, they're both great systems, whether they come to pick it up or whether you go to the post office or to the UPS to deliver the package and ship it out. Okay, so I am making a commitment to you that I am going to be creating at least one video per week on various topics of my content. Some of it will be for for dealing with aging parents or relatives and the caregiving aspect of that and how to help you move through that process. Other things might be about dealing with starting over after grief and loss. Also about reinventing yourself in your 50s. Decluttering your life after grief and trauma. Building resilience through adversity, and what your family legacy has taught you from your past family, your current family legacy, and what you bring to others. So every time you complete a session, every time you clear out a wardrobe, clear out a room, clear out a box, clear out a drawer, clear out a closet, you need to reward yourself and celebrate. And when you reward yourself and celebrate, it could be something simple. You get to go out and go get an ice cream cone. You get to go shopping and buy one article of clothing. You get to go out to dinner. You get to watch a movie for 2 hours. Whatever goal you want to give yourself, make it reasonable, that's of something that you enjoy and something that you really would like to have. But the whole point is, we want to create proof that I am moving forward. I am taking domain and command over my life. I have kept my promise to myself that I was going to do this thing. I did this thing. I completed this thing. And I am now living a better life now and moving forward. And so that is the commitment that you want to give yourself. You want to move into a place of commitment and keeping your word with yourself. Okay. Now, I want to remind you that your life, as it is up to right now, up to this point right now, your life is not defined by your past, okay? It's not defined by the accident. It's not defined by the flood. It's not defined by the fire. It's not defined by the rape. It's not defined by the abuse. It's not defined by the narcissistic abuse. It's not defined by the alcoholic. It's not defined by the addict, the drug addict. It's not defined by your master's program. It's not defined by the grief that you've piled up. It's not defined by all the physical stuff that you have piled up to this point. Your life is not defined by this pile up. Okay? So, my next chapter will be defined by what I build, by what I create, from everything that I have preserved, from everything that I am keeping on purpose. So if you want your writings and your notebooks about this book that you started, that you sat down and then you misplaced and displaced, and then here it is, that journal you started. If you really want to continue to finish writing that book, take that book, put it in a space, label it accordingly that you can easily find it. Put that in your inventory sheet of where you have it located and start working on that book, okay? And if it's just 15 minutes a day, you're going to write for 15 minutes a day, and you're going to write something in that journal towards finishing your book. Then you've done that task, and check off that task off of your to-do list, okay? Now, once you have done all of this, I'm going to say, you've come to a place of awareness. You've come to a place that it's your responsibility to deal with all this stuff. It's your responsibility to put your home in order. It's your responsibility to have your vehicle, your van, a place of peace and order. It is your responsibility to have your home and designated spaces in your home for rest and relaxation and rejuvenation, and a functional kitchen and a functional bedroom and a functional clean bathroom and a functional space to do your business and your work. And whether you're creating a coaching program or an exercise program, a wellness program, whatever it is that you're doing, that you have a designated business or office space, that you are creating your headquarters, your command center, so that you can easily commit to yourself day after day that you're going to do this. You're going to show up. You're going to do the work that's necessary. And once you start to get this rolling, then you're going to break down those steps into manageable tasks. So for example, behind me is this big white cabinet, and I'm going to, change the camera angle for a second so that you see. So this cabinet, okay, has a base underneath of it with larger cabinet drawers, doors that have all kinds of books underneath. And then there's all this stuff up top. So my goal, my task is to deal with everything in this cabinet and to put those things into categories. So just like what we talked about. So the first step is I'm going to sort, and I'm going to make piles of everything that I'm going to keep, everything that is going to be displayed on these shelves here, and everything that is going to contribute to my ideal coaching vibe. So those are the things I'm going to keep on that shelf in that area that are going to function within this room. And everything extra outside of that is going to be boxed up, is going to be labeled. These are coaching resource materials. These are, relationship books. These are master's program books. These are, financial recovery books. All of these investment books. All of these books are going to be put into separate boxes and separate categories, and they're going to be carried out of this room. They're not going to live in this room. They're going to go live into the other space. Okay. So that is an example of taking the big picture of what we talked about. Now we've managed it down and cracked it down into one step. And then we're going to go do that one step. And then after we've done that step, then we're going to record a video that we've done that new step, so that this is now going to be a stylized white cabinet for my coaching. And it's not going to have all this clutter. Okay. The next thing is I'm going to tackle my desk. So I'm just going to give, again, a camera view. So this is my desk, and it has a lot of bins and clutter. It has some inspiration to look at, but you see all this other clutter that's around and on the floor and in this corner and all the way up here. It's a lot of clutter. Okay. So when I deal with this desk, okay, I'm going to stylize the desk. I'm going to only have on the desk the things that are going to support me, and all the other projects and things that don't need to be visually seen are going to be contained. And those things are going to live somewhere else in the larger, coaching room. And the things that I really need that I'm currently working on are going to be at the desk in an organized folder that's contained. Okay. And then I'm going to have all of the podcasting equipment, some of which is in my upper room right now. So the different lighting that I have, the different, what do they call it? These things, tripods. So my, podcasting equipment, my lights, my tripods, those things, I'm going to have them convenient and stored, and I may get duplicates so that I have one in this room and one in the other room, so that I don't have to keep bringing it back and forth all the time. And that will be so that when I set up my podcast, I'm either in front of this cabinet or in front of my desk or in my kitchen doing my food demos. But what I'm saying is each place and space that I'm using for the different workshops that I'm going to be creating will have the appropriate vibe and the background. So again, I'm sharing with you the current situation so that you can then imagine what you can do in your own home. So if you want to start thinking about what piece of furniture do you already own that could become a beautiful backdrop for you if you cleared out the clutter and created a beautiful space for you to start from there. Okay. So what we're doing is we're creating zones. We're going to create a work zone that when I'm sitting at my desk and I'm sitting at my laptop, I'm doing certain things. I'm on the Zoom call with a client. I have the lighting correct for that so that everybody can see me correctly, whether it's a webinar Zoom call or a one-on-one private Zoom call, that when I am doing my online part of my portion of my business, that what people are seeing is what they need to see, and they're not seeing all the extra clutter and stuff. Okay. Then I'm going to have the second zone. So the first zone is my desk. The second zone is the sofa. And so this is where I'm going to be coming to you to talk about more coaching type topics, things that are maybe more insensitive in nature, because this is going to be my homey vibe. This is where I'm really, talking to you one-on-one and being like, this is what we're dealing with. We're going to talk about some serious topics. And, you want to be able to reach in and be able to connect in that way. Okay. And then the next zone is going to be my kitchen zone. I'm just going to do a quick flip around so that, when I'm at my kitchen island or at my kitchen counter, that, I can be recording while doing a Vitamix demonstration or food prep demonstration. And that, again, the surfaces are clear. The items that are in the background are relevant to what I'm doing. that there's not all this unnecessary clutter. So I am going to ask you again, and I think that you're going to be able to agree with me as we keep, going forward, that, oops, sorry about that, has your brain ever been overwhelmed? Have you ever criticized yourself for all of the unfinished projects, for all of the grief, for all of the responsibilities that you meant to do and you didn't do, for all of the decisions that are left undone in indecision, for all of the inherited items, some of the things that you like and some of the things you really don't use and you really don't like, for all of the boxes that have piled up, for all the things you thought that you should have dealt with already that you haven't already. So, with all of that, I want you to have eyes to see and ears to hear. You can create your upper room. Now, what do I mean by the upper room? In my space, I have a basement apartment. And so therefore, the level that I'm in right now is the lowest. This is the lower level. This is the studio where I have my kitchen, my living room, my bedroom, my bathroom, my utility closet. All that is on the lower level, okay? My, quote, upper room is my business. That is my coaching space. That has been my storage locker. It is my business headquarters, okay? And so with eyes that see and ears that hear, okay, you can create your upper room. Now, the upper room really begins in your mind. It begins in your imagination. It begins in your creativity. It begins with your awareness, with eyes to see and ears to hear. When you get clear about what you want and what you don't want, then it becomes easier to get into the action of letting go of the things you don't want and bringing into your space the things that you do want, and to keep the things that you already have that you do want. So when we get into this idea of creating this upper room, I want you to think about your head, and I want you to think about you're going to put a crown on your head. So in order to get your crown on your head, you need to go to your upper room. You need to go to the heavenlies. You need to go up. You need to level up. You need to see yourself worthy of wearing that crown. You need to see yourself worthy of having a life that you love. You need to have a vision that you don't want to struggle anymore. You need to have a vision that you don't want to live in a storage locker anymore. You don't want to keep making excuses to your family and friends of why you haven't done that. You don't want to keep telling people, I'm sorry, there's no real place to sit. I'd like for you to come over, but, how about we go out to eat? Those excuses and those buffers have been your delay tactics up until now. You have not been dealing with your responsibilities. Let's get clear about this. Let's have a real conversation. You have avoided these things in your life due to busyness, due to death, due to grief, due to multiple projects, due to working, due to being tired, due to whatever excuses you have given yourself. You have space in your home and you're not using it appropriately. And if in order to get past that and to create your upper room, you need to put your crown on, you need to connect to the heavens, and you need to be in a prayerful state, to be in a meditative state, and to be like, God, I appreciate and I thank all thank you for all of the things that I have inherited, been blessed with, been stewardship of, and have been managing up to this point. And Lord, I thank you for all of these things, and I confess that I have mismanaged my stewardship of these things. I have let myself go. I have let my home go. I have let my business space go. I have been so busy with all these other things. I have been consumed with grief. I have, made bad decisions. I over-purchased things. I forgot that I had all these other things. I didn't take good inventory of what I had. I've been, feeling like a rubber band pulled on all these different directions with the flood in my life, the going to school full time to get my master's degree. Like, all of these things have pulled me away from dealing with that stuff, and I haven't wanted to deal with that stuff, and I admit that I haven't wanted to deal with that stuff. So Lord, I'm asking you, could you give me your supernatural strength and bring that and rain it down from heaven onto me, and abide in me and indwell in me your power to deal with all this stuff, so that I can create this amazing coaching center, that I can create an amazing workshop space where people can come and gather together, that I can create a legacy and an archive of my life's work that is available to people digitally, worldwide, to create this gateway, this creative hub, so that people can come and access these materials that I've built. A place where I can make a contribution for myself, my family, and that we can create a legacy for others to learn from, and that our legacy can be honored and preserved. Your apartment, your home, your van, as it is right now, and again, I'm speaking to different audiences, so whether you live in a home, you live in an apartment, you live in a van, you live in an RV, wherever you live, a hotel, a tent, whatever, wherever you live, your home can be a calm space. Your home can be what you need it to be, with very simple, minimal needs in order to get yourself going. You need some type of light. You need some type of phone that's going to record, or a camera to record. You need a space that you're going to record in, and a place to write down your ideas or to type your ideas on your laptop. A space to rest, meaning sit on a chair, sit on a sofa. A space to rest, meaning sleeping in a bed. And a place to think. And that can be just with a notebook, with a laptop, or just quiet. Close your eyes and just think. Now, many people will say, well, when is that going to happen? Like, I look at that room and it's so overwhelming and it's just going to take so much time. When am I not going to be buried with all this stuff anymore? Like, that's probably going to take forever, And again, we can make excuses on why we won't do it or why it's so hard instead of just doing it. So when will your home, your space, your van finally reflect who you are now? Not who you were struggling to survive. Who you are now, to reflect that you are a survivor, that you had to survive these trials, and yes, you created this pile up to this point, but if you deal with one room, one wardrobe, one box, one shelf, one drawer, one closet, and you create more space by clearing out what you don't need, what you don't want, what you're no longer using, and you free that space up and you give those things away to the widows, the orphans, the poor. You give to the widows, the orphans, the poor. Give to the Goodwill. give to whoever you want to give to. A stranger on the street, doesn't matter. You give those things away that you don't need and you don't want. And then the things that you are going to keep, you sort them into 2 categories. The things that you're going to keep and use, things that are functional, things that you love. And those are going to go back into the room, the wardrobe, the closet, the box, the shelf, the drawer. Organized, accessible. And the things that you are keeping but you want to sell because you want to generate an income from those things because they have value, then you're going to put those in a designated box. You're going to label them, and they are going to go in a designated space labeled with an inventory sheet. And when you upload those on Facebook Marketplace or Etsy or wherever, you're going to keep that record going. Okay, I sold this. Here's the receipt for that. I didn't sell this. I'm really done with trying to sell this. I'm going to now give this item away because it was on Marketplace for 3 months and it didn't sell. The point is, you're going to create a system for people to pick things up in person, a system for you to ship things to people that are buying on Facebook Marketplace. So what can you do today? Are you ready to say, I'm not buried anymore? Are you ready to claim that I am a survivor? Are you ready to start right now? So go into one room, one wardrobe, one box, one drawer, one closet, and pick one area to deal with and begin that sorting process. These are things I want to keep. These are things I want to keep and sell. These are things I want to give and let go. And these are things that are trash. And as you move through that process, you are going to see the vision unfold. Because when the wardrobes that you want to get rid of, that heavy piece of furniture, when they're gone, you're going to have that space that wardrobe took up reclaimed. When those various things are removed in all those various boxes and bags and miscellaneous crap just thrown here and there, when those things are removed, you're gonna again have that sense of peace and calm, and your shoulders are going to drop a notch, and you're going to feel rested. You're going to feel functional again, and you're going to save $1,800 a year from a storage locker fee if you follow what I'm suggesting. Then you're going to focus on what you want to create. So in my case, for my business, Valor, I'm going to be doing weekly Zoom webinars. I'm going to be doing quarterly in-person retreats. I'm going to be doing events. I'm going to be doing consistent YouTube content. I'm going to be coaching clients weekly, one-on-one. I'm going to be coaching clients in webinars weekly. I'm going to be creating all of my digital content and uploading that to my different libraries and creating additional revenue income streams. That is the goal. The master spreadsheet. You want to create a master spreadsheet. You're going to put the box number, the category of what type of thing this is, whether you're going to keep it, scan it, sell it, donate it, trash it, and what kind of content idea you're thinking from looking at this thing. You're going to count the number of empty boxes that you have. You're going to count the number of filled boxes that you have. You're going to count the miscellaneous things that are bulky that you have. And you're going to have a starting point, and then you're going to have an ending point. And you want to photograph this process. You want to document that, you were here and this is where you are now. So what I've already documented to you is I have gone through this process already multiple times to get to this process. And if you look at what I have now and you're like, yeah, but that's so much stuff that you have. You don't even understand how much stuff I had before this. 3 storage locker units filled, plus stuff in this apartment, plus stuff in the van, plus stuff at my dad's house. Okay? So these things are going to really open up your eyes, open up your ears, let you see and hear who you've been. And then you have to make a choice. Are you going to deal with creating legacy for yourself and your family? Are you going to do the inventory of each one of these categories? When I open up that van wardrobe, I'm going to document, this is the camp stuff, and this is the electric stuff, and this is the plumbing stuff, and this is the wood stuff, and this is the camp stoves, and this is the propane, and this is the kitchen stuff, and this is the organizing cubbies, and this is the tables, and the chairs, and the tent, and the this, okay? So the point is, I'm going to take all of that inventory, I'm going to label everything, and then I'm going to determine from all that stuff, what part of this stuff can I sell? What part of this stuff can I give? What part of this stuff am I keeping? And then I'm going to sort through that, and then that one wardrobe is complete. I'm going to repeat the process for my art inventory. So I'm going to have the paint and the drawing and the notebooks and the paper and the poster boards and my portfolio, my completed art, and my art that I want to put in frames, and the crafts and the mixed media and the graphic design and the teaching supplies and the clipboards and the easel. And I'm going to go through all that, and I'm going to say, this paint is dried up and it needs to go in the trash. And these markers, need to go here. And the point is that I'm going to take all of that stuff and label it and organize it and put it into its appropriate new home. Now, the other thing that I'm going to help you with and share with you is another video that is going to be how to prepare for Shabbat. Now, I'm just going to give you a brief. What is Shabbat? Shabbat is God's way of creating rest into your week. So what that looks like is that from Friday at sunset until Saturday at sunset, that time period of Friday sunset to Saturday sunset is what we call Shabbat or Sabbath. And that is precious God time, precious rest time. And so what we do is we prepare the day before so that we are caught up with our tasks, so that our home is tidied up. The kitchen is clean and ready to serve. The living room space is ready to gather people and have people over and expend time with family and friends. The bathrooms are clean so that people can use them and say, wow, I like your bathroom soap, etc. The menu is prepared so that whatever food we're going to eat from Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, that all that food is already prepared. I've already cooked it. I've got food warmers. I've got, sandwiches, snacks, whatever, so that for that day, I do not have to busy myself with cooking and preparing food. I'm not running out to the store. I'm not going shopping on a Saturday. I am resting and relaxing. I get to unplug and turn it off and prop my feet up and just rest in God's presence, get into my Bible, read some scripture, maybe go to bed early, maybe, read a good book that I wanted to read a little bit, just a couple chapters, just to get myself in a calm, restful mode. I might be using aromatherapy. I might be, having extra pillows or whatever. The point is, the Shabbat time is that I'm preparing my life before Shabbat occurs so that I can have this restful time. I've cleaned and prepped my area so that everything is ready for the Shabbat restful time. I'm not doing any work. I'm not organizing. I'm not going through boxes on Shabbat. I'm not doing Facebook Marketplace. I'm not meeting with people during Shabbat. I'm not doing inventory. I'm resting. I'm worshiping. I'm recharging. I'm reflecting. I'm in a state of gratitude, and I'm gathering friends and family. Okay? So that is what Shabbat is about, and I will put together another handout on that for you to reflect on. So once we establish our plan of action, that, for example, I want to remove these 3 wardrobes that are taking up space, then I'm going to measure the doorways that those wardrobes have to go through. Does this door have to come off of its hinges? I'm going to plan that out so that there are no surprises. I'm going to call the mover and get an estimate. I'm going to, schedule him on my calendar so that I know that he's coming on this day to pick up these 3 wardrobes, okay? Once those wardrobes leave that upper room, it stops being a storage locker. And now, from that point on, after those wardrobes are gone, that officially becomes my business headquarters. It becomes Valor headquarters. So what I'm getting at is that I'm trying to get you to see that this whole thing has really been thought out in my head. I've really, I've had to go through the motions of living in it, of knowing what works and what doesn't work, of noticing where the breakdowns are, of noticing where clutter accumulates, of documenting this, of journaling this, of noticing how I'm using my space and how I'd like to use it even better, what products I want to buy that will help me do that. I've thought about the type of, vibe I want to have, the color scheme, that the wardrobes, they serve their purpose for that season, and hid important materials that I was trying to preserve. But now it is time to pack those things up in portable, mobile, easy to carry boxes so that I can rezone that upper room to be more functional than what it is with those heavy pieces of furniture taking up that space. So I'm going to have an archive wall, a coaching center, a conference area, an area for content creation, and the workshop space. And so all of those zones are mapped out for that room. So what you need to do for your upper room is you need to get quiet, and you need to sit still, and you need to think about and imagine, what do you want this room to look like? How do you want this room to function? What would bring joy to your day? What kind of objects do you want to bring into the room? What colors do you want in the room? And once you establish that, then you're going to start knocking that out. You're going to start creating that vision. And then after you have reclaimed your space for the room and the purpose that you want to do it with, and in my case, to reclaim my business headquarters in that upper room, then I can then plan out my business launch. So then I can think about, well, by this date, I'm going to do my weekly content. I'm going to do this many videos. I'm going to do my webinars. I'm going to have this many private clients. I'm going to be generating leads. I'm going to do this many workshops. I'm going to be targeting this many clients. And the point is, all of those things and numbers can be calculated, and the quarterly events can be calculated, because I now have a finished functional room that is designated for those purposes. But when you were in the midst of the clutter, the pile up, the hoarding, the blocked access and blocked pathways, and all the crap is just a junk room and a storage locker, every time you say, I have too much stuff, I have too many boxes, I am so behind, I'm so overwhelmed, you keep yourself stuck in that pattern when you continue to repeat those things. But when you say out loud, I am curating my business headquarters, I am curating my legacy, I am reclaiming my space, I am building the next chapter of my legacy company, one box, one shelf, one client, one video, one step at a time. The point is, all of this is possible, not just for me, but for you. And, we need to remind ourselves that, we need to have definite purpose, okay? And like Napoleon Hill says, with definite of purpose, that's where you create your aim and your focus. Like, I want that room completed into my business headquarters. That's the goal. I want my van build to get complete with this new electric project. That's the goal. I want to, reorganize my closet and take out the old stuff and prepare for new. That's the goal. So each one of these projects that we have in place, we have a purpose, and then we need to create an organized plan, and we need to be persistent daily to carry out that plan. We need to have the self-discipline, discipline, and keep our faith. That means faith moving in actual action. That means every day we need to be doing something, moving towards getting that upper room set up as business headquarters. Now that may look like to you that, maybe it looks like you go up there today and you say, well, I'm going to sit in this room and write down what I want this room to be. Great. So you're going to create the vision. That's awesome. And then you need to go in that room and you need to pick one box and go, today I'm dealing with this one box. Empty out the box. Only put in that box what you're going to keep, or what you're going to sell. Everything that you're going to donate, you're going to put it in a bag. And you start to create this momentum of, this is what I'm keeping, this is what I'm selling, this is what I'm giving. And as you keep moving through that process, your thoughts and your actions are going to then give you this self-discipline. And within the self-discipline, you're going to take dominion over your property, over your environment, and you're going to control your environment, because you are taking responsibility for yourself, your life, and your stuff. Now, remember, this is not about shame or blame or guilt, okay? So just like I said, I am not a lazy person, okay? That pileup that I have is from multiple life circumstances stacked up. Floods, grief, death, inheritance. Was I trying to sell that stuff? Yes, for many years. 10 years I've been on Facebook Marketplace. What was I, being lazy about it? No, I have an absolute system. This is how I sell things, person to person, at my house. This is how I sell things by shipping them out. This is my procedure and my process. This is my shipping unit where I have all my packages and my, packing tape and all that. Like, I have a system. The issue is that sometimes things sit and they don't sell. And then you have to either change the description, or, lower the price, or raise the price, or put it in a different platform. Like, some things that I sold on Facebook Marketplace would only sell for $50, okay? And that same item I put on Etsy, and that item on Etsy sold for $275. Yes, it's also about where you're putting this stuff. Where are you placing your stuff for sale? I had these beautiful Asian screens. And again, this is where you have to think about, like, what are you studying? What are you researching? What's your skill set? Like, I have an eye for, like, antiques and vintage things, and I went to a yard sale and I bought these Asian panels that were, I think, $10 for the set of panels at a yard sale. $10. Investment, $10, okay? And I tried to sell them on Facebook, and I think I had them listed for like $75, and nobody was biting them on Facebook Marketplace, and for a while. And then I thought, well, I wonder if I put them on different, what are they called? Hubs. So I put some on Etsy, and I put some on whatever, and then I took the same item and I described it in a different way, and I put it in like vintage places and like heirloom places and antiques and that sort of thing, instead of just a regular, Facebook profile of that item that I was trying to sell. And I ended up selling that one item for $275. The investment I made was $10, and I sold it for $275. So there is money to be made. I'm not saying that I make those types of incredible, you know, upsells all the time. No, that's like the rare find, and it's like, oh wow, I'm jumping down up and down for joy for a $10 investment and selling it for $275. The other thing that I've done is I've taken furniture that I bought, and then I've refinished it and, you know, sanded it, remolded the broken pieces, recarved the wood, you know, painted it, refinished it, put different hardware on, and then I've sold that furniture for several $100s per piece of furniture. Now, sometimes people will be like, hey, will you take $50 for it? No, $50 won't even pay for, you know, my labor, you know what I mean? So, like, you're going to get people that are going to devalue you and your stuff. And you just have to have that resilience to be like, no, I'm not selling it for that, but, you know, my price is this, and that's what the price is. And that means that you might have to hold out longer to sell that item because of its value and the time that you invested into it. Other times I might take that piece of furniture and then consign that piece of furniture that I've already refinished, and then somebody else is storing that piece of furniture in their space and they're going to sell it. And I might not make, let's say I was hoping to make $300 on that piece of furniture. I might only make $200 on that piece of furniture because somebody else is going to put another profit margin on top of it. But what I'm getting at with this whole selling thing is just that it is a process. It's a learning process. Sometimes you're going to, you know, make out great, and other times you just want to get the thing out of your space because you're tired of looking at it, and you might give it away for $20 and you don't even care because you just want it out of your space. So it's all about what you're willing to put up with and how much space you have to deal with it. And like I said, if you are managing storage lockers and the cost of storage lockers, then you may have a different format than what I'm sharing with you. But if you are going to utilize the space in your home and designate a portion of the space in your home to be able to run the selling portion of this stuff and give a time limit to it, then you can create this extra income for yourself that could then finance the other parts of your project. So for example, when I sold a bedroom set from my aunt's estate, I think that was like, it's close to $1,000 for the bedroom set or pieces within the set. That money went towards my van build, and, you know, putting that money into, you know, the wood and, you know, the new flooring after the flood, etc. So what I'm saying is, you know, sometimes we have life circumstances that happen, and then the things in our life that are taking up space can be the solution to create the income to be able to pay for the next phase of what we're doing. And it is a process. So don't be in such a hurry to get through the process. Enjoy the journey, enjoy the process. It's not just about the destination, it is truly the journey. It is the path that we are walking. So my homework to you is, after listening to all this, you can always go back and listen again to get your notebook out and write things out again. But my question to you is this: are you fed up with the way that you've been living, with all of the excuses that you've made, with all of the physical pileup of stuff that is basically stealing your energy? Are you ready to put order to that stuff, to label those things into boxes and bags, and keep the things that you want to keep in the containers and, you know, pieces of furniture and closets and drawers and cabinets to fit within the space that you actually have? That means to, like, live within your means, that there is a limitation to what you're doing. And then from there, you know, with all the excess that you have, to prepare that stuff for selling and to prepare that stuff for giving away. And if you are part of the people on this journey that maybe you're living in an apartment, maybe you're going through that phase where the rent is just escalating and you're looking for another solution and another alternative, and you've heard about van life, you've heard about RV life, you're wondering what it would be like to be a nomad, a traveler, someone who lives out of their vehicle. There's other information that I can share with you upon that, and that will be in a separate video. But for starters, if that is something that you are interested in, then comment below, van life or van build, depending on what you're interested in help with. And I can, again, share the different information that I've acquired along that journey, along the process, and share with you the tips and tricks that I've gone through to save you from making some of the same expensive mistakes. If you have enjoyed this video in regards to seeing about your stuff and the pileup of your stuff, and you want help with, you like the idea of doing it, but you know yourself enough to know that this is not really, that you need somebody to help you do it. So the other part of what I offer is I offer something called overhaul. And that is where I literally come to you. I physically drive in my van to you and go to your home, and I help you deal with this process. I help you physically put the things in boxes and bags. I help you physically categorize, envision, and I coach you through the process. It is my high ticket item. It is an expensive process to do that with me. And I have done that for several people over the years. And, it's kind of like that story of you go to the carpenter's home and, his kitchen is unfinished. Like he has cardboard over top of his countertops because he hasn't installed the varnish on his countertop, because he's the carpenter and he's out doing everybody else's home and making everybody else's kitchen and countertops and cabinets beautiful. But then when he gets home at the end of his day, he comes home to his own home, which is unfinished, and he, doesn't really feel like doing the carpentry work to his own home because he's a carpenter and he does that all day long. Well, yeah, I've kind of done that too. So that's another contribution to my pile up, is that I've helped so many other people conquer the clutter, and I've helped them declutter their homes. I've helped them, gather up their belongings and sort them into keep, sell, give away. And I've helped them haul it away with my truck and haul that stuff away to the dump. I've helped them to, I've helped them go shopping and to, curate the pieces, the furniture, the knickknacks, to create the new space of what they're trying to do with their home. If, I've worked with people that have, put their homes up for sale. And so I've helped them declutter their home of what it was. And then I've helped them go shopping to get the things to stylize and, create the vibe for the home visits for people to walk through, and, see the space in a beautiful, stylized version. And then those pieces again are taken away, when the home staging, when the people purchase the home, unless that's negotiated into the price. But the point is that I've helped people that know that they want to move. I've helped them pack up their stuff, label their boxes, organize their stuff. This is the keep, this is the sell, this is the giveaway. This is, going in this room and it's labeled and colorized and color coded for this. And this is going to this location, and this is going into the pod, and this is going into this truck, and this is going into the car. So I have literally helped people in their journey of decluttering. I have helped them physically make decisions about their stuff. And some of these, examples that I've done so far, it's kind of like when you're in the midst of it and you're working with a client, I really want to be organic and real and genuine. And, sometimes cameras are just not appropriate. Like I might do a quick, like, here's some photos of the before shots and here's some photos of the after shots. But when you're in the process with the client, it's private. The things that come up for the client, they may not really want to talk about that on camera, and they may not want to be recorded. So I will just share a testimony of something that happened to someone, just so that you get an idea of a positive and a negative experience. So I work with this one lady that I actually knew in my network of people that I knew, and she knew that I was trustworthy and reliable. And so she said, hey, I really want to move from Maryland to the beach, and I really don't know where to begin. And people said that you've done this before and that you could help me. And I said, okay. So I went to her space, and she was a dog walker. That was her life. So to put this in perspective, her home looked like a doghouse. It smelled like a doghouse. Everything in her home was about being a dog walker. So she had stacks and stacks of dog food. She had dog leashes. She had dog toys. She had, there was like dog hair everywhere, right? Her life of coming in and out of her house was really a grab and go situation. It wasn't really like, her home was not really set up to like sit down at the kitchen table and have a meal. It was more like standing at the counter eating or grabbing something to go and leaving. And her kitchen was set up that way. Her living room was probably the only, I'm going to say, efficient room in the house, meaning it was a place where she watched TV or watched movies, and she was pet sitting other people's pets in this living room. But again, there were so many dog toys everywhere. And it was a small house. It had a very, very cute backyard that was very private with trees and such. And then she had a bedroom on the first floor, which was, very simple. It was maintained. There was no issues there. But when you got up to her upstairs was like her clutter room. It was where she just dragged stuff, whatever she got that she didn't want to deal with, she shoved it upstairs in this like attic space. And it could have been a really functional separate bedroom. It could have been an income producing unit for her, where she could have had a roommate or had a tenant with a separate entrance and everything. Like, it was set up for all that, but she never utilized it for that because it was just a junk pit to store crap. And there was crap everywhere. And, there were bikes and camping gear and, like projects unfinished and this and that. And so there's just a lot of stuff. And so she said, what do you think we should do? And I said, well, I think that what we should do is for you to make decisions first about all the stuff. And we'll make piles of what you're going to keep and what you're going to sell and what you're going to give away. And when we finally got to, there was like boxes and boxes of photos. And this was of her family history. And they were just, single photos. Like, they were not in any kind of photo album. They were just random. If you hit the box a certain way, stuff would fall out everywhere. And it wasn't really protected in any way. And so the point is, it was like a project that she meant to get to that she never got to. But it was like, she didn't want to let go of it. Right. And then, there was all this random stuff, and it was like, oh, I want to keep that because I want to, I want my kayak, I want my, camping gear, I want this, but I don't want this. And so because we had nice weather during this time, what I did was I kind of treated it like whatever I could bring outside, that's what we did. So when she would make a decision, I don't want this raft, then I would immediately take that raft and stick it outside on her front lawn. And it was like, okay, that's going. Okay. And then, okay, she doesn't want this, this bike. Okay, well, this bike is going out of the shed and it's going over here with the raft that she doesn't want, And so physically, all these things were physically piling up on her front lawn, and she could really start to see how much stuff was in the house. But when it was all like junked in, that attic, that she didn't really go into that room, and when she just wasn't really using the shed efficiently, it was like when she saw the stuff that she didn't really want, she didn't use, and she didn't need, and then she was like, oh my gosh. And so with her, she really didn't want to wait around or try to sell any of these things. So she was a unique client in that respect, because she was just ready to make a decision that she didn't want it, and she just wanted it to go away to charity immediately. Like, so that is one benefit when you're really ready to just give it away. And so she was just amazed. She's like, oh my gosh, there's so much stuff. And I said, are you ready to take a break right now and make a run to let go of this stuff? And she's like, well, how am I going to do that? And I looked at her and I'm like, you see that big van over there? That's mine. And she's like, oh, okay. And so then we took the next amount of time, moving some things around in my van that were my stuff in the van, and then to create the space. And then we piled all the stuff in black trash bags, and the awkward big stuff, the bikes, the rafts, the whatever. And we hauled it, and she drove with me in my truck, and we went to the place that she wanted to donate it to, and we both unloaded it, and the truck was empty from all that stuff. And we came back, and she walked in her house, and she was like, wow, like, it feels better. And she's like, okay, let's go back up into the attic and let's do some more. So in her case, once she saw the stuff removed that she really didn't want, and we took a van load of it and dropped it off, and it was out of her hair, out of her sight, she didn't have to think about it anymore. She was motivated, and we continued to keep going. Now, the things that got harder were the drawers and the cabinets, because she was having trouble making decisions on things about, like, well, I really like that because when I go camping, that's really functional, but I know it's not really pretty, but I actually use it more than these other nice pans, but these are really nice pans, and I just bought them and they're brand new. So she was getting caught up on the brand newness of stuff and the financial investments of things that she made, and she didn't want to, quote, just give them away. But when I suggested for her to, well, do you want to put this on Facebook Marketplace? I can sell it for you, or you could set up the thing yourself. And the point was, she just didn't want to do all of the computer digital stuff. She didn't want to manage it. She really wanted to get in and get out, and she was, in the process of purchasing a home. And so there was all these variables lining up. Like, she wanted to move. So she was like, no, I'm going to keep it. And so a lot of the stuff that she was being indecisive about, she just decided to keep it instead of letting it go, because she was pressed for the value of it, because she really didn't want to sell it, but she didn't want to let go of it and give it away because she felt like she was wasting her money. So I'm sharing this process with you about this client because it does show that sometimes people react differently with, how things are processed and, how we go about things. And So my encouragement to you is that, that whenever you can make a decision quickly and just get rid of it and give it away, fantastic. When you're not sure of the item, if you can box it up and sell it, or make a decision that when you get to the next destination, you'll sell it, and give yourself a time limit that if you don't sell it, then you're going to give it away. So just to put those, those boundaries in place for your success. So that example, once we cleared out her space of all that miscellaneous junk, and then we cleaned the space and, staged her kitchen and staged her office dog room into like an office, and we staged her living room, and we staged her bedroom, and we staged her bathroom, and the upstairs, that's where we spent the most of the time and energy and money. So once that whole space was cleared out, we painted that room, we brought in a bed and a dresser, and we staged that room. And again, when those photos went up for her to sell her house, it was that room that most people were like, I love this upstairs room. It's so quaint and cozy. And that's what sold the house. Believe it or not, the cluttered up, junked room that was transformed into this beautiful, cozy upstairs was what sold the house. So sometimes your assets are hidden in the clutter. And she was able to sell the house in just 2 months' time, and that was it. And she was gone, and she lives lives by the beach now. And so her life went from, I'm living in a dog house and being a dog walker, to let's create this small home to look presentable and beautiful on this beautiful wooded piece of property, which then sold. And then she's now living her retirement life at the beach with a simpler life and everything, with, a place for everything and everything in its space. But I will say that when I did go to visit her about a year later, the one guest bedroom was filled with all of those boxes of indecision that she did not want to make the decision on. So she did carry that clutter with her, and it stayed within that room, and a year later it had not been dealt with. And so the reason I share this with you is that if you can, make that decision and just like be like, okay, I'm moving forward with my life, I'm giving this away to charity, that's great. But if you say that you're going to do something with that stuff and then you don't do it, and another year later, like, the room looked out of place and cluttered because there wasn't a designated place like an attic or a basement, because she was living in, a mobile home by the beach, and there wasn't this extra storage space. It was like she was limited on storage. And so then a functional room then became a storage locker, which is, the same pattern that we all have fallen into. So that's my positive share on that. I'm going to stop the video here and just say thank you so much for being with me throughout this process. I really appreciate it. If you could subscribe, give a thumbs up, like the video, make a comment, and let me know in the comments any questions you have, what you like, what you don't like. I appreciate all of your feedback, and I will see you in an upcoming video. And so get moving. One wardrobe, one box, one drawer, one cabinet, one closet. Just pick something and get started, and watch your life completely transform. See you soon.